Keep an eye out on my channel for more details on the release of Bon Viveur. We're going to have it out this spring. We don't know the exact date yet, but really soon. And the note listing will be revealed very soon on my channel too. Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another one of my impromptu quickie videos where I don't do much editing, and it's often an unboxing and often a vintage fragrance that I do. But on this occasion I didn't have anything new to unbox this week, but I thought I'd feature a fragrance which I really haven't mentioned very often, which is an absolute vintage classic scent. Guys, don't forget there's a code for you, a discount code of 5 Mr. Smelly for executiveshaving.co.uk, link in the description. Their fragrance range there is superb, and they are very affordable, some of them, and the code just gets you 5% off all the fragrances on their site, which ship to the UK and within the EU. Check them out. Now, some of the stuff you can see in front of you, none of which is that fragrance, could give you a pretty big clue as to the fragrance we're going to be talking about, so I'll dive straight in and reveal. So the fragrance in question is Ralph Lauren's Safari for Men, and this was first released in 1992. This is a fantastic fragrance which has got a wonderful bottle design that I absolutely love, but unfortunately most people agree that you really need to seek out the vintage version, which is made by Cosmere, in order to get the real juice. I think that is the way that it was produced between the years of 1992 and 1999. Now, as I often do with these videos, I'm going to give you a little bit of background information about the company itself, not just their fragrance line, but the fashion brand itself of Ralph Lauren. I wanted to do something ever so slightly different today because I found a lovely copy of Vogue magazine. I think it's the American edition. No, it's the English edition too, and maybe it's the American one actually. Yeah, it's got the sticker for the UK, but it's kind of the imported USA version due to the $3.50 price on there. This was at the time that the Safari range from Ralph Lauren was being launched, and I believe that this encompassed fashion, clothes and stuff, and maybe even the kind of furniture and stuff that they did. Ralph Lauren Safari, and a rather attractive woman, beautiful bottle design for the female version which came out in 1990. I think these are some of the other things from the range that Ralph Lauren did, presumably rather expensive interior design furniture type stuff. The Safari, so it's kind of themed around being in a rather swanky hotel or place in Africa, and again the clothes look absolutely great, I must say, and that swimming pool looks inviting. The perfume gets more of a look in. Oh no, that's all the look in that you get from the perfume side. No, it does come back. Hang on. Okay, so here is the rather alluring lady and her pet dog, and a lovely decor there. I love that these old trunks and stuff. They're quite in at the moment, aren't they? People use them as coffee tables. And there we see the beautiful presentation. The new women's fragrance. They're advertising it at Bloomingdale's, who actually will come back into the story. Long relationship, it seems, between Ralph Lauren and Bloomingdale's. So let's talk about the fragrance in question then. So we're talking about Safari for Men. It was first released back in 1992, a couple of years after the female version. And I've got 2 bottles, so lucky me. Now, the interesting thing about this is that both bottles have a slightly different colour. I don't know which one is from an earlier era or later, but they both smell, as far as I can tell, identical. They're both great. So they're Cosmere era. If you look very closely, they've got slightly different labels, but on this one, if you're very eagle-eyed, and I do mean you will have to be, you probably can't see it here, but just next to the number 4 there, it says Cosmere. You need the Cosmere edition because most people agree that is the better version of the fragrance, and it's lost some of its glory since 1999. So you've really got to find rather an old one to get the good juice. Let's talk about the company Ralph Lauren for a bit then first. So the company has been going many years. Let's talk about the man himself. So Ralph Lauren was born in October 1939, and his name back then was Lifshitz, and he was from the Bronx in New York. He came from Ashkenazi Jewish parents, and along with Calvin Klein was one of a few people from that kind of heritage who went on to be big in the fragrance world and who grew up in New York. He served in the US Army from 1962 to 64 and then went on to work in Brooks Brothers for a short time, after which he became a salesman for a tie company. And he started off his whole line of stuff with men's ties, and it was at the age of 28 years old in 1967 that he persuaded the tie manufacturer Beau Brummel to let him start his own line. He called his first line of stuff which was menswear, I believe, Polo, and he managed to get himself into Bloomingdale's, who were his exclusive stockists in 1969. He got his own little boutique there. By 1971, he released a line of tailored shirts for women, which saw the first appearance of the famous polo player logo, which of course we all think of Ralph Lauren polo. You can see the logo is on everything. Well, it's not actually on the fragrance in question today, but it's on the first fragrance that they released for men. I'm going to talk about it in a moment. And you can see it on the polo shirt there. I've got one of those. I find those a really good item of clothing, actually. So these did not appear, the men's polo shirts, I believe, until 1972. And the company really associated with this sort of preppy look that these shirts give off. And I like these polo shirts because when it comes to summertime and hot weather, I'm not someone who feels comfortable wearing a Pokemon t-shirt, or just a white cotton t-shirt doesn't seem to suit me, but I do like something with short sleeves sometimes, and these are just for an older guy like me in his 40s, a casual item of clothing that's sort of smart casual at the same time, preppy I guess you can call it. I think they're a really good look. So I've got a few in different colours and all that kind of thing. Let's get stuck into the actual fragrance itself then. So the bottle design is just phenomenal, and we're going to see a little bit of fancy rotation there, which will give you all the angles. It sort of reminds you a little bit of a whiskey decanter. I think that's maybe what they were going for. So maybe you're off on safari in Africa, and you might in the evening have a few nice drinks with a fancy whiskey decanter, that kind of thing. And that really effectively done there with the packaging. Superb scent, this one. Let's talk about the actual smell. Before we do that, we should mention the first Ralph Lauren fragrance, which is very famous too, and likewise most people agree you want to find the old Cosmere variation of that, which I believe, this one, it doesn't actually say Cosmere on the bottom, but it is, no, this is my one that does say Cosmere. Sometimes there are vintage ones that don't say Cosmere, which is very confusing. But this one, if we look very carefully, we should be able to see the word there on the label somewhere, just underneath, it's sort of the second line from the bottom on the left, Cosmere. Brilliant fragrance, a chypre fragrance, which some people think of more as a fougere, but certainly a very piney, green, rugged, masculine fragrance. Excellent stuff. Not really quite the same though, the version they sell now, which is still on our shelves. 1992 then, they follow up the female version, which I won't talk about the scent of because I'm not really familiar with this one, a woody aromatic fragrance. I cannot find the perfumer for it. Carlos Ben-Haim did the 1978 men's fragrance, and Dominic Ropion did the female Safari, but he's not listed for this. Don't know if he did this one. Confusing note listings. I've gone with the one on base notes today because I think it reflects the vintage version more accurately to my nose. Eucalyptus, bergamot, cedar leaf, basil, cinnamon, thyme, lavender, geranium, oak moss, patchouli, sandalwood, leather, and vetiver. So this is a really classic masculine type fragrance. I can leave that one on the screen while I have a little sniff here. It's classy, grown-up stuff. It certainly could come off dated to some of you guys. You know that I like my retro scents, and this definitely has a dad or uncle vibe potentially, so beware. However, it's different to the very green and piney original Ralph Lauren Polo for Men fragrance from 1978. It's a little bit smoother. I feel that there's quite a significant kind of leather note which ties in with the safari theme. I guess there's a lot of leather stuff that you wear and carry and stuff when you're on safari. Not something I've ever done. I can't say going on safari is top of my wish list. I'd rather be by the beach. But yeah, it's got a little bit of a leathery undertone to it. It's got complexity, definitely some lavender. This kind of fizziness that you get with aldehydes is there. And then tremendous complex aromatic. So there's green notes, artemisia, coriander. These things are all kind of spicy, a bit difficult to pick out on their own specifically as fragrant notes, but there's a complexity about the fragrance which really is a classic theme from the 70s and 80s fragrances, and really this fragrance I think ties in more with the fragrances that had gone before from the 80s and the 70s and maybe the 60s too, than the things that were to come shortly afterwards with the onset of things like Issey Miyake for men or Acqua di Gio from Armani, which are very fresh and aquatic type fragrances. And by this time we already had Davidoff's Cool Water, which was again ushering in a new era of type of fragrance really. But this one has that classic old school vibe, but something different and unique about it really. A little hint of some sophistication and smoothness that perhaps is absent in the rather rugged and uber macho Ralph Lauren Polo from 1978, but equally a very manly kind of fragrance, but suave, sophisticated. A little bit more bohemian, I think, perhaps, than the original fragrance from 1978. It's got a real class about it. If you like YSL's Jazz, it's very, very similar to that. I definitely pick up on patchouli, leather, and a general spiciness combined with a hint of a barbershop aura as the overwhelming kind of thing that I get from this scent. Seek out the old one if you can get it at all. The performance is okay, but nothing amazing. I think the bottle design, if I was sort of, oh, well, I just think it's a nice fragrance, it's not the best thing ever, I want it in my collection purely for the bottle design because it's absolutely stunning. And I think, you know, just an ornament, a thing that I would have on my table, on the sideboard, it looks really, really good. Great, great fragrance. So much more interesting than so many of our designer fragrances today, and from an era, as you could see from the Lavish magazine advert, when fragrances like this, designer fragrances, really had a luxurious, exciting feel about them that's sometimes missing from fragrances today. If you're interested in the watch there, that happens to be, I've just put the focus on it, it's a Sandoz Submariner. I think it's from the 1960s, and it's got a wonderful patina and aging on the dial. I picked it up for sort of under £300. It's a Swiss brand originally, not too prestigious now, but this one has a little bit of a following as a great alternative to a vintage Rolex Submariner, which will cost you back, you know, cost you more like the price of a house, and this one doesn't, so that's really nice. And the one I'm wearing, getting a bit into my vintage watches lately today, I am wearing a Doxa from 1956, which I recently had serviced. This was only £65 on eBay, and of course Doxa are a little bit popular these days for their diving watches, which are quite expensive, but these simple ones like this can be picked up for great prices on eBay, and I put it on a relatively affordable aftermarket bracelet, which I rather like. Let me know if you've tried Ralph Lauren Safari. Does anyone out there have the modern version? Am I wrong to say that it's not up to scratch? I've only sniffed it in shops once or twice, but I consider myself lucky to have what most people consider the better version. And let me know if you agree with me or not in the comments down below. Thanks ever so much for watching. Remember, whatever you're doing in life, let's project. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.